Hello. Continuing to talk about observing and tracking animals this week. And we have a handout here. This is about pronghorns. Now, we've been talking about a lot of creatures that live in the ocean. That's been our focus the last couple of weeks. But this particular activity was made about the pronghorn of North America. So the techniques used in order to study these creatures is the same that you would use to study sea lions or sea otters or whales or sharks or whatever it is that you'd find in the ocean. We can tag these animals either with radio collars or with satellite collars and track them and see where they spend most of their time. So again, we're looking at behaviors of these animals and then seeing what those behaviors tell us about their lifestyle. So this first page is just some basic information about pronghorns, where you're going to find them, what they like to eat, what their predators are, and some general facts. The next page, though, is data that's been taken from satellite tracking. And there's graphs, and you see 2 graphs here and 4 on the next page. And what we need to do is 2 things. We need to look at each graph, and we have to say, what do we see? So we're just going to describe the trend, and then what does that mean for pronghorn? So I'm going to look at this first one and use that as an example. And they talk about it in this box, but what they're saying is if the data is up here near the top, that means the pronghorn like that land. If it's data that's down here towards the bottom, the pronghorn don't like it. They don't spend as much time there. So we look at this first graph, and they says slope. Now what they're talking about is the slope, or the angle of the land. So if this is my hill, if I have a hill that goes like this, here's some trees. That's not a very steep slope. It's very gentle, it's very mild slope, as opposed to a hill that goes like this. Here's a tree again, getting good at trees. That slope, that angle of the land is very steep. And that would be kind of like our slope at 25%, where this slope over here on this side would be more like, I don't know, 5% or 10%. That's what slope means. We look at this and says, what do we see in the curve? Or what do we see in the graph? Well, I see what I'm just going to describe it. I see a rising curve, and then it descends. Rising curve, then it descends. I spelled that wrong. That's okay. So that's just telling you what the line looks like. But what then we need to do is say, what does that mean for pronghorns? And we see that the higher probability of finding them there, this area, this range right here, that means they like this area. And what that shows us is that the slope of the terrain is low. But as that slope gets steeper, like in this range here, as it gets steeper, you're not going to find as many of the pronghorn out at a steep slope. So the probability of finding them is very low. So when we're talking about a 25% slope, a very steep slope, you're just not going to see those pronghorn. You're going to see much more of them on a gentle slope. And that's how we read this graph. So that's what you would say. The pronghorn like flat, open spaces. They prefer that to rugged or steep land. And then you're going to do that for each of these other ones. So you got rugged terrain, you're going to read that one. Green vegetation, what their preferences are for green vegetation. These last 3 are man-made things. So wells, these are water wells. And it talks about how you'll find pronghorns either in an area without water wells or with lots of water wells. Do they like it? Do they not like it? Paved roads, unpaved roads. And so these graphs all tell you something. The data is telling you something. Okay, if you have more questions, just let me know. All right, thank you.